I'm the Mayor's Chief Innovation Officer. It's my tremendous honor to welcome all of you here today to the inaugural demo day for the Mayor. 2 years ago, when Mayor Lee created my position, first of its kind in the country, he saw us as a startup within government. Since then, we've been dedicated to creating the next generation of products and services for government, and also supporting the next generation of civic startups. There are three things that we passionately believe in. First is that the web has democratized entrepreneurship, that it's lowered the barriers of entry in every industry, including the public sector. Second, the challenges that we face in government and as a society are not going to be solved by any one sector. It's going to take the best and brightest inside and outside of City Hall. Third, we believe that innovation can happen anywhere, and in fact, happens everywhere. It happens when we listen to our community and their ideas about making San Francisco a better place. And it happens at events like today when we bring in talent from the startup community to tackle the challenges that we face in City Hall. When we launched the Entrepreneurship-In-Residence program, we had no idea what to expect. We were hoping for maybe 10 or 20 startups to apply for this program. So we were amazed when nearly 200 startups from 25 different cities and countries responded to our call for action. Working with departments and city staff, we selected 6 of the best startups to work with 6 departments across 16 weeks to tackle a specific challenge. Today is a culmination of all their hard work. Last, I want to thank Mayor for having the vision and courage to create and support this program. I also want to thank the 6 department heads and their staff for all their hard work that they put into this program over the past 16 weeks. And I want to thank the startups for all of their work. It's an opportunity cost for them, so them actually investing this time and energy is a big investment. And last, I want to thank my team, Jason, Lally, and Krista for all of their hard work behind the scenes in making this happen. So thank you. I think we're waiting for the mayor here a little bit. He's going to be on his way. So over those 16 weeks, one of the things that we did was we didn't know exactly how the engagement was going to work. Was it going to be something that was we had to guide very closely, or is it something that was going to be self-driven? We were really surprised to see that the entrepreneurs and the city departments sort of formed a really strong team together, and over those 16 weeks, they developed a rhythm. They prototyped and piloted, they tested out their assumptions, they worked with different organizations like Lighthouse for the Blind. Brian, their executive director, is here today. So they really tried to better understand the community and the needs of citizens and internal departments as well. I'll hand it off and introduce Mayor Ed Lee to make some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Jay. I didn't know what you said, but I think it's okay. Anyway, I want to all welcome you to City Hall, and again, thanks to Code for America to help us with improving the city services. You know, we've had a great relationship with technology companies, startups and established companies through quite a number of years. And when you look at what's going on, I think today's program, demo day, but also the work that you're doing behind this is a reflection of that relationship. In the past couple of years, I've had the privilege of working with technology leaders to help me with improving public schools at the tune of over $5 million this year, and targeted middle schools to bring technology there to our middle school students. We've got the philanthropic goals of companies like Google and others who are helping us bring Wi-Fi to the parks. Ruckus Wireless bringing free Wi-Fi to Market Street, so some of the fastest and best and very safe wireless technology coming into our parks, as well as a major thoroughfare. We got SF City that's been helping me try to change a law to help seniors and people who are long-term residents in the city not get evicted to the Ellis Act. And while we hadn't been successful yet, that effort is being recognized all over the state, something very difficult to do in this state. We've got so many companies helping us with homeless activities. We announced just this past summer another program with Zendesk that helped us with information directed at people who are homeless to access services in and around their neighborhoods. We've got technology leaders like the Benioff family helping us with hundreds of families on homelessness, particularly aimed at women and children. There's just a host and a variety of this. And then even major events, technology companies are helping us, like as we prepare for Super Bowl 50, a lot of companies are helping us make sure that transportation in this city is dealt with in a very smart and efficient way. So I put all of this entrepreneurship in residence in the framework that we're growing a strong relationship with companies in their city. And I think my feeling is that both technology companies, their workers, also want to help me solve real-world problems, things that happen every single day that need improvements in people's lives. And part of the way we do that is improving the way government works. And many of you are part of what had been called a disruptive industry. And you come in and you disrupt whole industries. But we've been, I think, getting used to the word disruptive as being a good thing, because some of the way we do things in the bureaucracy that I've been a part of over 23 years need to be disrupted. We need to kind of get our heads out of the bureaucracy and suggest to ourselves, are there better ways? Can we use our data better? Can we communicate with our constituents and even better? Can they give us input, and can we turn that around to provide better, more, and efficient services? This is what I think entrepreneurship in residence is all about. And I want to be just very mindful of your time today, because I know you want to get to some of the demonstrations, but I want to thank Jay, your leadership, and again, Code for America, to help us create these relationships even more. And I hope that not only will some of the demonstrations be reflective of what I just talked about, but that we take some of these ideas and really make sure we can implement some of them, particularly if we've had enough disruptions so that the departments can say, hey, this is a better way to do things, and we can use the data better. We'll be committed to making sure we open even more data up. I know we have a data chief officer now that is helping me comb through what it is from departments that they're still maybe not aware of, that we could be sharing, and that we could allow that data to flourish in the private sector so we can create these public-private partnerships. This is an exciting time in the city. I think you can feel it. Everybody wants to do better, do more. We have more resources to do so. But it's also a very sensitive time, a time when I think we want to do better. We want to solve problems more, and I think people will expect us to do better. Technology, there should be an expectation that we do things better in government because of the relationship with technology and with our own commitment that we want to do better. So I want to say thank you to all of the partnerships. I want to say thank you to the departments who have been working with the startup companies and the technology companies in the framework that let's solve more problems, let's make the city even more representative of the 100%, that everybody can have a chance to live full lives and live good lives in this great city. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing all about your demonstrations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Lee, for your leadership in catalyzing public-private partnerships. Our next speaker, the keynote, is Jen Palka, who many of you know. She's the Executive Director of Code for America, and she's also the former Deputy CTO for the US. And it's amazing to have somebody like her. She's been inspiring to me personally, but also to our city and to people across the country and now internationally as well. So she's been really, truly a leader in the civic innovation space. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's very kind of you, and it's really great to be here. As Jay said, I really feel very connected to all of the work in the room. I've been friends with Jay since the very beginning, I think, probably the day Code for America was born, and it's just nice to be here with you today. and also with Jason and Krista. Thank you so much. The mayor was very kind to give us a couple shout outs. I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful, Mayor Lee, for all the work that you do to support this space, this kind of innovation. But I also just want to make it really clear that we are here as cheerleaders at Code for America. This is the work of the amazing Office of Civic Innovation here in San Francisco. I wanted to comment about the sort of interesting times that we're living here in San Francisco. So many of the companies who are most visibly changing the world that we live in are located right here, a lot of them even just blocks away. And so much of the national dialogue has shifted from how these companies are changing the world to how they're changing our city right here, and the impact of the technology entrepreneurship world on the lives of the public. These are very complicated issues. There are divergent views and very strongly held beliefs. But there's also a lot more that unites us than divides us on these issues. Still, it's the thing that everybody is talking about. But I think what they will be talking about and should be talking about after today is the impact of these entrepreneurs on the lives of the public, the ones that are here today and the partners in the Entrepreneurship-In-Residence program in the city of San Francisco. Now, I started Code for America because I heard Tim O'Reilly tell a room full of geeks to work on stuff that matters. And when I thought about what matters, and as I started working with people in government through an event that we were putting on, it occurred to me that there isn't a problem that matters that doesn't require government to play a key role. And increasingly, it's local government that is tackling those problems. So whether you're talking about a global issue like climate change or local issues like air quality or public safety or disaster response, government must be part of the solution, and it's government's ability to work in 21st century models of collaboration and cultivation and platform thinking that can mean the difference between progress, real progress, and stagnation. So what the companies in this program today work on does matter, not just to the problems that each of them is addressing, but to a bigger cause, and that is our collective willingness to invest in the one institution that is designed to serve us all. So when Buildingeye helps the city of San Francisco communicate with many of its residents in the way that many of those residents communicate with each other, through digital channels and in a language that makes sense to people, the outcome isn't just greater efficiency, or even, as the mayor referred to, disruption. The outcome is trust and faith in government, and that is something that I think our future depends on. So we're celebrating and advocating and perhaps investing in, it's a demo day, right? The companies that are featured here today because they represent the best of what San Francisco startups have to offer. They work on what matters, and they do it with the iterative, customer-focused, data-driven approaches that has made this city world famous. And they don't just take what the world offers and make it digital. They make something new. So what if Uber had set out to make the process of hailing a cab put it in an app, but they recreated all of the hassles that are already inherent in the process? What if they didn't show you the progress of your car as it were arriving? What if they hadn't required passengers to rate the drivers and the drivers to rate the passengers? I know that Uber is controversial. I'm not trying to make a statement here about regulating them or not, but they do show that the best digital experiences truly reimagine processes around the needs of the users. And from what I've seen of these companies here today, they do that. Now, I said earlier that everyone will be talking about the impact of these entrepreneurs here today on the lives of the public. But I want to make sure that you know who I mean when I say that. I don't just mean the founders of the companies in the program. I also mean the entrepreneurs in City Hall who've collaborated with them on their solutions. Silicon Valley so often gets it wrong. And of course, I mean the TV show. No, I haven't seen the TV show. But I hear about it. I hear about the way that perpetuates these stereotypes. Eric Reese, a friend of the office and a friend of Code for America, is often reminding us, you're not an entrepreneur because you write code or wear a hoodie. You're an entrepreneur if you build, test, learn, and build again. You're an entrepreneur if you are building something that didn't exist before, under conditions of uncertainty, sound familiar, and towards a guiding vision, some sort of North Star. And you're a civic entrepreneur if your North Star is some version of what we sometimes grandly like to call the people, as in we the people, as in for the people, by the people. Now, there's a lot of plumbing in government. You guys know this, a lot of wacky internal processes that the people don't see. But at the end of the day, it is the people of San Francisco that all of that machinery is designed to work for. And the entrepreneurs inside government know that better than just about anyone. It has really been the greatest joy of my career to have the chance to work with public servants both in this city and around the country. And to see the remarkable work that they do that so often goes underappreciated by a culture that misunderstands the definition of entrepreneurship. So here in San Francisco, there is a cult of founders. In the world of public service, where people understand that at its core, government is simply what we do together. When we say founder, we mean something a little different. We're talking about the founders of our country. Now, the thing about founders, whether it's of companies or countries, is that they don't have just one job. They have all the jobs. And their number one job is to speak for the user, but in this case, we might say to speak for the people. Company founders and the founders of our nation have another thing in common, and I would like to end with a quote from another great entrepreneur from the city of San Francisco, a guy named Jack Dorsey, you might have heard of, who said one time, "The founders of our nation had a lot of good ideas, but they had one really great idea, a more perfect union, and the realization that they weren't going to get everything right the first time around. The work is unfinished, it's open to the future, open to change, open to evolution, and there is not one founding moment, but in fact, many." So Demo Day is not the end of a program. It's the beginning of a new approach to a set of problems that really matter. And it's a founding moment that everybody is going to be talking about. So congratulations to the companies, to their partners, to the team who conceived of and executed this remarkable program. But most importantly, congratulations to the people of San Francisco for what they're about to get. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen, for those inspiring words and your tireless efforts in helping modernize government. So with no further delay, we're going to get started on the Demo Day aspect of the program. And just a few housekeeping items for all of you. We have 6 pitches from 6 departments and 6 startups. Each team will have exactly 7 minutes or less to pitch. And if they exceed that time, we will gong them. After the demos, we'll break for a couple of minutes for those of you who have other commitments and need to leave. After that break, we'll have a panel discussion on civic innovation and entrepreneurship with 4 different individuals, and then we'll wrap things up. But we ask that if you have any questions or want to learn more about these companies and the entrepreneurs in City Hall, please stay afterwards. There's little signs in the back with the different logos of the companies. And we will be live tweeting and posting, and if we encourage all of you to do the same under the hashtag Mayor Lee Demo Day. And with no further ado, I'd like to welcome our first team, Scott from the Planning Department and Edmondson from Synthicity.
Thank you, Jay. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Scott Edmondson with the San Francisco Planning Department and the Information and Analysis Group. Let's see, hang on one second here. Is this gonna... Yeah, but there was a...
Now we've got some issues.
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries. I think once we get this rolling, smooth sailing.
There was a dialog box that was popped up. Great. All right. Very good. Okay. Sorry about that little pause. And I'm very excited to be here with you today to talk about the work we've done with Synthicity and their next generation city planning tools. These tools have the capacity to add systems performance information to the planning process, and this is a new capacity that hasn't existed before and would improve planning, potentially even transforming planning practice itself, both here and everywhere else. I'd like to take a moment to thank Mayor Leaf and Jay Nath for making this Entrepreneur-in-Residence program possible, and John Ram, Director of City Planning, and Teresa Ojeda, Manager of the Information Analysis Group, for really seizing the opportunity to explore the innovation in planning practice on behalf of San Francisco. The Information Analysis Group studies long-range planning issues, including housing and development capacity. These issues are complex, the bane of planning existence, so to speak. Why are they complex? They're complex because market forces, regulations, and design all interact in very complex ways and have economic, environmental, and social impacts that we need to understand before we make decisions. In order to understand that, we ask, what are the impacts if height limits are changed, rents go up or down, construction or financing costs change, more green spaces are needed, more affordable units are needed, and a host of other things. Now, right now, with existing tools, this analysis is time-consuming, cumbersome, and expensive. No existing tools integrate these factors very well in the analysis, in the presentation, and in the decision-making. Enter Synthicity, and I'd like to introduce Jason Oliveira, our partner with Synthicity, and thank him for their industry-leading work in this field, which I've been watching grow for the last 15 years, and it's a very exciting time. Jason?
All right. So I'll tell you a little bit about our company first. Scott said it's been 15 years. Actually, the company itself is 2 years old, but our founder has been working in this area for 15 years. He's actually the chair of the City and Regional Planning Department at University of California, Berkeley, and has really been an innovator in simulating urban systems for a long time. Synthicity now, we're building on this experience and integrating it with visualization tools and a really user-focused design and analysis system to really push planning forward. So we bring the research of our founder and a lot of our team members who are all really well-grounded academics with practitioners who are experienced in architecture, urban planning, civil engineering, and a really strong software development team. So what do? We make basically real-life SimCity. So we're visualizing what cities are going to look like and taking what is often very opaque, complex data and putting it in 3D on a map in an interactive environment. We're using it to analyze how all these complex factors of land use regulation, transportation systems, and real estate all work together. And we're hoping that this helps people design more intelligently in a way that really considers all the factors involved. So not only what the shape of the city will be, but how it performs. So we're really grateful to the mayor and the Department of Planning for this opportunity to listen and learn together. And it gave us an opportunity to really understand what's really needed by planners. We worked with Scott Edmondson, Teresa Ojeda, and Axel in the planning department, and among others, but we really spent these 16 weeks having conversations to learn about what they need now, but also what their long-term vision for planning can be. We had 16 weeks, so what did we do? We didn't revolutionize planning, but we had a lot of good ideas, and we developed a prototype for what seemed to be the most important pressing questions. It's a tool for studying what if in different scenarios. So we have a system. Right now it's a web prototype, and we have a series of different combinations of inputs that fall into the categories of regulation, design, and market forces, and a way to visualize very quickly what this looks like and what the bottom line entails. So let video play here for a second. As you can see, we have in the upper right a 3D model. So this is a live model that's changing as you change the inputs, not just a static image. And we can do things like change the height and see not only what the building might look like, but whether or not we're meeting our targets in an analytical way. So we could change not only the height, but setbacks, watch how taking up less of the site might mean we come into greater compliance with lot coverage regulations, but also might have a less profitable project, which might never get built. A lot of the what-if questions are about studying alternatives. So we want to understand the impacts of different alternatives quickly, so we can see the impact on how many housing units are produced in different configurations. The levers that the planners have at their disposal are primarily zoning regulations, and being able to understand how a proposal complies or does not comply with regulations helps us to either understand how to change the proposal or the regulations. So the system is meant to, give an opportunity to get a high-level overview, but also dive into the details when necessary. So this is all about a single site. And where we really see this going is when you scale this up to a citywide analysis. So here we're looking at one site. What if we want to look at how different projects interact? What if we want to look at them in context? And really get an overview from a city planner's perspective of what's the bottom line of all these projects together. We're looking at putting the analytical tools that we developed over this program into our primary software, Urban Canvas, to understand over time and in different scenarios, how do these things work together? So here we are aggregating a bunch of different proposals and looking at what would it look like in the year 2000, 2020, 2030. Scenario A, what if we had another scenario that has a park? Really being able to take the kind of quantitative analysis and put it together with this visual analysis and look at all these pieces together really brings planning to a new level, because all these individual steps took so long and take so long now that being able to add them up and do this kind of rapid iteration as a designer or a planner, it's really formidable. So now we can do things like over a neighborhood or a city, look at what kind of subsidy would we be requiring if regulations didn't necessarily support market rate housing or affordable housing. So in the end, it's about getting much faster feedback, integrating a lot of the tasks that are currently separate, and allowing a much more iterative approach to planning. And in the end, it's about shaping the city better and having a bottom line that enables us to actually reach the vision that we all want. Ultimately, having this kind of visual environment is about communication, and not just keeping planning amongst planners in the department, but being able to communicate with a greater segment of the population and really collaborate with everyone to get everyone's input on the issues that affect everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Department and Synthicity, for all your hard work. I'd like to introduce the next two team members, Susan from SFPD and Jameson from Mobile PD. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Susan Merritt. I'm the Chief Information Officer for the San Francisco Police Department. Very happy to be here with our Mobile PD partners. Mobile PD is an entrepreneurial company that specializes in apps for law enforcement. So it was a really great collaboration. This is Jameson Johnson and Kushar Kazray in the audience. I would also like to thank the mayor and Chief Sir for the opportunity to participate in this program. It's been absolutely great. The police department has had several disruptive technologies implemented over the last couple years. We have our North Star sitting here in the audience, Chief Sir. But you may have read we implemented smartphones for police officers, 1,700 police officers in patrol, the end of last year, the beginning of this year. And they're not just any smartphones, they are smartphones enabled with CLETS, which is law enforcement data, as well as the Crime Data Warehouse, which is a decade's worth of crime reports. So now officers walking around the streets of San Francisco are actually carrying mini police stations in their hands. So that's been a great and very impactful project, but my department in the police department are just at the very beginning of learning about mobile technology. So having Mobile PD work with us, who are visionaries in law enforcement technology, has been absolutely just a wonderful experience. So I'll let them take it away. Jameson, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jameson. I'm here today with Kushar, and we're the co-founders of Mobile PD. We're a local startup that's created the next generation of law enforcement technology, and really our name says it all, like Susan mentioned. We make mobile applications for police departments. Before we begin, we want to personally thank Mayor Ed Lee, Jay Nath and his entire team at the Office of Innovation, and especially Chief Sir for inviting us into the police department, and Susan Merritt for helping us along the way. We really appreciate all this work. It's been a huge opportunity for our company. A little background on us. Everything we do at Mobile PD is centered around making local communities safer. So every decision we make, every product we build is with that in mind. Over the past 2 years, we've worked with some of the top law enforcement agencies all over North America on mobile technology that's helped locate missing children, resulting in major criminal arrest, and overall has helped cities in their quest to reduce crime. To achieve this, we have 2 separate platforms. We have mobile apps that engage citizens, get them actively involved in public safety, which helps solve crime and keep the city safe. We also have internal applications for officers, which makes them more efficient, effective, and safe. Given this background, we were extremely excited to be accepted into the EIR program and to partner with SFPD. It's rare for a startup like us to have the opportunity to really immerse ourselves with our customer. And what we did is, rather than pushing those existing products, what we said is, let's go in with open eyes, let's interview as many people as possible, and let's really find the underlying challenges that we can help solve with mobile technology. As Susan mentioned, one of the reasons this was such a unique opportunity for us is when an SFPD officer is sworn in today, they get a badge, they get a gun, and they get a smartphone. So specifically, we thought if we looked hard enough, we'd find challenges that we could help solve with smartphone technology. Over 16 weeks, SFPD was kind enough to really just open the door for us within the agency. We met with operations, the training academy, CSI, literally all the way to going on the streets of San Francisco on a Friday night in the most dangerous part of the city with bulletproof vests, on meeting with officers, really trying to understand what the challenges they have are. One common theme we kept on hearing was something called a field interview. In a field interview, it's an informal interview conducted by officers. Nearly every officer in the United States does this on a daily basis, and it's an extremely valuable resource in solving crime. And it's recorded on a little card, and I have it right here. So this is how they take all this information in. They write down what's important, and it hasn't probably changed in about 40 years. I want to give you an example of kind of how the process works. So let's say an officer is walking down the street, and a citizen waves them down because they just saw something that happened. The officer would pull out this card, they'd take down the citizen's information, any important notes from the interview. They'll then drive back to the station and then manually enter this data into a computer. As you can imagine, going through this process on a daily basis is extremely time-consuming. And with so many of these cards coming in, it actually can create a backlog of cards, so the data is not in real time always. And then finally, when officers are writing down, there can be errors in handwriting. When they actually enter the data into the computer, there can also be errors as well. So what we decided to do was to turn this old legacy process into a modern, sleek mobile application. And what you see here is a prototype we've developed over the last month. Let's see here. You can see that if an officer taps on the field interview, we brought in all the same fields. They can even scan someone's ID and automatically populate it on the card, saving them time. They can take a photo if they need to. And we try to take it to the next level by adding additional information. So for example, on the next page here, you'll see that they can even automatically bring in the location, the time, the date. They can even add a voice recording, associate vehicles with the incident. So what does this mean for cities like SFPD? First, the data will be instantly available and error-free. But more importantly, and really what we focus on as a company, is that it's going to allow officers to focus on what's important, which is staying on the street, serving the community, and as a result, making San Francisco a safer city. The entire process has taught us a very important lesson, and it's if you want to improve government, you really have to immerse yourself at the deepest level of an agency to truly identify those fundamental challenges. Looking forward, there's about 13,000 police departments in the United States that all do this same process on a daily basis. With almost 1 million officers out there, we believe this could result in a huge efficiency gain on a national scale as well. So we're happy to announce that we're now offering Mobile PD FI as part of the Mobile PD software package. Thank you all for listening. We'll be in the back, and we invite all of you to come over and say hi after.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce the next team. It's Hannes from Indoors and Charles from SFO. So we've got the wrong order here. Yeah. Why don't we just do a switcheroo really quickly? Yeah. Sorry about that. My apologies.
Here you go, Lucian.
Almost gave away the best part. Good morning. Oh, this is filled up. My name is Lucian Burgett. I'm the manager of capital controls at SFMTA. Very pleased to be here today. We had great success with this EIR program, and pleased to be here with Kieran from Buildingeye to present our results. Let's begin with SFMTA's working environment, give you an idea of the context that we're working with. We are certainly a multimodal agency, everything from taxis, pedestrian, rail. This, as expected, makes for a very robust, very complex 5-year CIP program. Capital improvement program, I should say, valued at over $3 billion, hundreds of projects, multiple programs, funding sources, et cetera. Makes for it's a challenging environment. We implement everything from traffic calming speed humps to new underground subway systems. So we set out 2 years ago to catch up to technology, improve our project delivery, and better manage this complex capital improvement program by implementing a program control system made up of 4 key components. You've got Primavera P6, that's detailed scheduling, resource allocations, and control. Oracle CM13 helps us with construction contracts in the field, SharePoint, document management, electronic workflows. And really the star of the show today, EcoSys, EPC, that's our system of record, integrates with our financial management system, our scheduling system, maintains budgets, and allows us to present information at a project level, such as this screenshot that you see in front of you. See, it's organized by program, has key attributes, budget, current phase, project manager, et cetera. Not just project level, but also activity level, which is really key. Drilling down into the details. Where are the problem areas? How can we correct? And how can we report on current project data? So we recognize some pretty clear opportunities with regards to the system we had in place and our needs. And so we developed an application that is web-based. It's mapping, so it's geolocated based on project data that we deliver to the system. It accommodates varying audiences, everywhere from a supervisor aide to a contractor to the public to even internal staff. End users, not just viewing the data, but actually developing reports and maybe email notifications when project data changes or new projects are added. Ultimately, however, we want to be able to provide timely, accurate, useful data to the project, keep people informed, keep people in the know. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kieran so he can introduce himself, Buildingeye, and our solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucian. So, a bit about me. I'm Kieran Gilson. I'm the founder of Buildingeye. And just a bit of background, I'm a civil engineer. I've been involved in building and planning for over 12 years. So I would take projects from the design stage through to completion on site. So that could be capital projects, residential, commercial developments. And having done all that, I suppose I've dealt with a lot of different parties, with contractors, developers, government, citizens. And the big thing that we found was that everybody wanted to know what's happening in their neighborhood, but it was very hard to find that information. But it was already in government city websites. So we said, right, let's make that a lot easier. So we're based just across the road in 9th and Market in Runway, despite the accent. And what we do at the moment is we take building permits daily, anything that's happening in this city. So once a new building permit comes in, we drop a pin in the map, and we give all the information about that project. Its description, when it came in, the address, the value, and then a link then to more information on the city website. 2 clicks to that information. And if you live in this area, drop a pin in the map. Anytime a new application falls within that zone, we'll send you an email. And that's building, and now we're working with the planning department to map planning too. And again, it's updated daily. So having done all that, that's led us to working with SFMTA and solving a current problem. An example of one problem that they have was supervisors want to know what's happening in their neighborhood. So they request from SFMTA, give us an update on all the projects that are happening. At the moment, there's 15 emails sent out to different project managers. Hey, tell me what's happening in your area. And they send 15 emails or more over and back. That information is copied and pasted into a report. And then once that's all done, it's sent back to the supervisor. Now, that takes 2 to 3 days. And with 100 reports a year, that's up in a year's work. Right, so we have to address that. So here's where we started. We took Lucian's information and combined that and made a map. So here's all the projects for the next 5 to 10 years in San Francisco, capital projects. Now, you can just identify a project, click on it, and then we bring up all the information about that project, who the project manager is, who's the project engineer, the approved start date, approved end date, its value. And if you want to find out more information, click and we bring you straight to the information on the city website. So having done all that, how does that help the reporting? Well, what we can do now is SFMTA, just type in Supervisor District 1. We bring up a map of all the information in Supervisor District 1, only that information, and instead of sending out loads of emails, they just go press report. We automate the report for every project in that area. Now, that used to take 2 to 3 days. We have it down to 5 to 10 minutes. And then from 100 reports a year's work, 1 to 2 days. So having done all that, and mapped everything out, who else is of the information of use to? As Jen mentioned, everybody wants to know what's happening in their area. So now we can communicate to businesses, to citizens, and say, right, this is what's happening in your neighborhood. We've spoken with businesses that, what do you want to know? And what they want to know is, if I'm opening a new business, is there going to be construction work for the next 2 years, 5 years? What's the plan? Is it a good area to move into? Or should I do a remodel right now? So basically, they want to know when the digger is moving in on site, and when it's leaving. And because we have that information updated daily, we can do that. You can hire those out for the weekend, actually. I've done it for gardening, a bit extreme, but it's good. Overkill. So, having done all this information, mapped everything out, we can filter lots of things down. We can really run an analysis on all these projects. Show me projects that are in design stage, in construction stage. Show me projects that are running over budget, projects that are from 2015 to 2020, running over time. And because we have all this information mapped, you can say, hey, tell me what's happening in my area. Drop a pin on the map or create your own custom shape. And every time a new project comes in within this area, we can send you an email. And we can layer that with planning and building information too. And again, it's updated daily, so it's very current information. So having done all that, what have we taken for the last 16 weeks? Well, having worked with SFMTA, we've shown that we can deliver efficiencies. We have a mapping application built, and having a full understanding of the capital projects, we show how we can leverage information to help staff and the public. And for us, we have a full understanding of how SFMTA works on capital projects. We're already in discussions with other cities about building out an application like this for them too. So it's been great for us and for SFMTA, I hope. So I'd like to thank Mayor Ed Lee and Alicia, Chief of Staff in SFMTA, and of course Jay Nath for this great opportunity to work in this project. Okay,
thank you guys. Thank you, Indoors, and thank you, MTA, for their hard work in this. Next up is Indoors, Hannes from Indoors, and Charles from SFO.
There we go. Thanks for the stretch earlier, Jay. That was nice. My name is Charles Schuler. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing at SFO, and I'm here representing the team of SFO. We've got some of the team members here, Gloria, Karina, and Humphrey in the audience, so thanks for all the good work. Our mission at SFO is to provide an exceptional airport in service to our communities, all of our communities. And so when Mayor Lee announced the EIR program, our airport director, John Martin, was extremely excited for us to participate. And he really saw the vision and the opportunity to leverage technology to help benefit our blind and visually impaired guests and travelers. SFO has a history of providing accessible information and services. And so it really seemed like a logical next step to kind of take it to the app world. How do we take this technology, how do we take our information and make it accessible for people in real time? And so our challenge was, how do we integrate and create, in some cases, the indoor wayfinding technology using beacon technology and location awareness, and bringing these together to be able to empower our blind and visually impaired guests to be able to get through the airport on their own with minimal assistance and just create an awareness. And you know, to see some of the demonstrations and the testing, pardon the expression, but it was kind of eye-opening to see how people reacted to having this information that they didn't have before. It was really, really exciting. So we sat around and like Indoors came on board, and we figured out, how do we do this? And we realized we needed some real-life expertise, and so we reached out to Lighthouse for the Blind. And I'd like to thank Brian and Lisa Marie and Frank for their assistance in helping us not only test the final app, but kind of frame it for us. It was really, when we sat down and figured it out, it was kind of foreign to us how we wanted to integrate this technology. And so in 16 weeks, we were able to go from sitting around the table and from a theoretical point of view and create a working beta. And before I turn it over to Hannes from Indoors for the media here, I'm going to put a plug out. We're doing a press conference tomorrow at Terminal 2 to do a live demonstration of the beta product. And if you have not gotten the media advisory, please see me after the program, and I'll make sure you get that information and that invitation. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Hannes from Indoors.
Thank you, Charles. My name is Hannes Stiebitzhofer. I'm the CEO of Indoors, and we are very honored to be part of the program because we actually travel now from Vienna, Austria to San Francisco many times. And like everybody who can see, will walk up in an airport, go to the flight information display, look up the flight, look up the check-in counter, which gate to go, and just proceed. But how is that for visually impaired people? And it's stupid to say it this way, it looks like a black screen. They don't see it. So when they arrive, they need help to get from the curb to the gate. And San Francisco Airport said, let's build an application to help them. So Indoors basically is building navigation solutions indoors with the help of Bluetooth beacons, I have one here, and smartphones. The reason why you need Bluetooth beacons or other technologies is there's no GPS signal available. So the objective was really to bring somebody from the check-in to the security checkpoint, maybe to the restroom, where is it located, to a shop, to buy some gifts for the people you want to visit, to the gate. And actually we did it also from the arrival to the baggage to the exit. Over the last 16 weeks, we did quite a lot of work. And we started in April with a kickoff workshop where we started writing down our assumptions. And then have meetings with Lighthouse, who basically told us that most of our assumptions were wrong. Yeah. So based on that information, we started to build a static prototype. Just, code something which you can use. And then later in July, we installed 296 beacons on Terminal 2, which was really great to work with SFO because they had to put them all on the walls. So if you go there, you might find them. But they're really small, as you see, and they're in the color of the place where they put. Last week, we did a beta test with the application we developed starting in June. And we documented all that tests on video because we have to evaluate what we learn here. Before I start the video, here's the starting screen, and that's Frank from Lighthouse, and he's just using his smartphone. As you can see it as he can't see, it's not necessary that he looks on the screen. So smartphones now have that accessibility option and voiceover, which is basically reading what's on the screen. And that's how they use smartphones. And then just tap on it. So let's start the video. And sorry, there's no audio. And the audio would actually be really important, because then you would hear kind of the phone talking to Frank, to Jim, who's just looking up the banking machine here on Terminal 2. So I think SFO and we learned a lot in that 16 weeks, designing that application, which basically impacts our developments and also the developments of SFO. And one is the presentation of information. When you look at maps, you filter out kind of irrelevant information very quickly. But when you take the same information and read it to somebody, then that changes. So in the beginning, we read out a lot of trash bins, and nobody's interested in trash bins. Yeah, there are lots of trash bins on the airport. You would be really amazed. And actually, Frank can confirm that. So that was really a great experience. And I would just want to finish with kind of, there are around 6 million people in the US visually impaired. And having that on all airports in the US would really help them to travel on their own. And by the way, everybody else can use that application as well. So it would make your travel easier as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannes from Indoors, and SFO for all your hard work, and Lighthouse for the Blind. We all appreciate that, and it's really innovative technology for this this really important community. Our last team, actually not last, second to last, is Joe from Indoors. Sorry, Regroup. And I don't know you, Anna. Anna from DEM.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Anna Sopp. I am the Operations Emergency Services Coordinator with the Department of Emergency Management. One of our key responsibilities at DEM is to send out public notification to the public as well as cities, departments, and this can involve anything from small-scale incidents, such as fires that may lead to displaced people, as well as major transportation disruption. Larger incidents are also our concern, things such as tsunamis as well as earthquakes, which is why we're here today. We can never forget the historic 1906 earthquake as well as the more recent 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. Looking forward in the eyes of emergency management, the USGS has predicted a 99.9% probability of an earthquake in the next 30 years in California at a 6.7. So San Francisco is especially susceptible to this based on its location and fault lines. One of the projects that we're currently involved in is a broader initiative that's based on USGS, where they have basically placed sensors along the fault lines to allow to give us a warning if there's an early earthquake as an early earthquake notification. And this basically would allow us to receive an alert before the ground shakes. So one of the things that we're involved in is an early earthquake warning group that's comprised of MTA, fire department, police department, different city departments here in San Francisco. And we're looking at evaluating solutions to enhance public safety as well as reduce loss of life if there is an early earthquake warning that's sent. In such a circumstance, you're really looking at a limited time frame, something from 2 seconds to 2 minutes. So our focus was to place automated responses if there's a trigger to the early earthquake notification. Examples can include something like slowing down BART Muni trains to activating backup generators. But we also wanted to explore mass notification to the public as well as to city departments. With such a short time frame, having a real-time ad hoc translator if we wanted to reach a broader group of people, wasn't likely, so we wanted to meet with Regroup and look at linking to the early earthquake notification system that we currently have, and then explore addressing a broader group of people. How do we do this? How do we send out to different languages and have built-in messaging as well? So and we don't have currently, do not have this in the United States, a mass notification that's linked to our early earthquake notification system. So I was introduced to Joe from EIR to explore how we can have this happen. And this is Joe.
Thanks, Anna. So my name is Joe DiPasquale. I'm CEO of Regroup, and we were linked with the Department of Emergency Management through the EIR program. I'll tell you a little bit about Regroup's company background. So the company was founded 8 years ago at Stanford University. At the time, the administration only had emails to contact students, but as you guys know, in the past 10 years, there's been a trend of replacing email with other things such as text messaging, social media like Facebook and Twitter. So over the last 8 years, Regroup has become the leading mass communications platform for large organizations. On Regroup, we are able to integrate easily and effectively with different modes of communication. You type a message once, you click one button, and it can be sent out in all of these ways. Email, text and voice messaging, social media, internet platforms, and even more like digital signage and that sort of thing. And one thing that is unique about Regroup is that we've actually worked in a non-emergency context with San Francisco for over a year now. Before Regroup came into place in San Francisco, there was no easy and effective way to, for example, email the 32,000 employees, but now Department of Technology uses us, and 311 uses us, and other departments through San Francisco's citywide license with Regroup. So, as Anna mentioned, through federal funding, there are seismological instruments set all throughout the Pacific Northwest, California, and beyond. There is an initiative called ShakeAlert through universities, including Berkeley, that actually connects through the seismometers to a desktop application that will tell certain sponsors, such as DEM, that an earthquake is approaching with up to a couple minutes notice. This is a closed system, so there's actually, prior to Regroup's initiative, no way to get a message out other than if you have this desktop application. So that's really where Regroup came into play in our focus on mass notification. We wanted to combine the monitoring that has been pioneered by the ShakeAlert program with the ability to do a notification. So that would be an automatic notification, as Anna mentioned, that can include such information as the intensity of the earthquake, the time that you have before the earthquake hits, and perhaps just a general recommendation to take the proper steps, which could be something as simple as getting in a more secure location, as you can see, getting your children in a more secure location, turning off gas burners, and things that actually could otherwise result in the loss of lives, and did obviously in 1906 and in 1989. Both of those earthquakes resulted in loss of lives and other mass disasters. This is an example of a text message that we've prototyped, and this system has actually been connected to the ShakeAlert system, and the prototype is a working prototype to be able to message people with a text message such as the following: SF alert, an earthquake of 6.4 magnitude with moderate shaking. We can also tell the shaking amount from that, and the distance from the epicenter of the earthquake is expected in San Francisco in the next minute. Please take the necessary precautions. Through Regroup, we've not only prototyped the ability to do text messaging, but also the ability to do voice messaging, so that there's even additional equal access. And both of these text and voice messages can be put in the 4 required languages from San Francisco, which are English, Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog. This is the first time that this would be able to be put in these 4 different languages. So the pioneering initiatives here are that nowhere in the US is there messaging that's connected to these seismological instruments. Actually, it only exists in a couple countries such as Japan. So this would be the first initiative of that kind that actually would message out based on that information. And in only a few places is there actual equal access for different languages around the US. So that's part of San Francisco's innovation through this EIR program. So, so I guess the two things that we are pioneering are those automated early earthquake warning, taking out seconds that would be needed, and the multiple language messaging. And looking forward, we're looking forward to meeting with the early earthquake warning group that Anna mentioned and continuing to discuss this. Currently, early earthquake warnings are an unfunded mandate in the state of California, but we're looking forward to that kind of getting some weight behind it and some funding behind it in the next couple of years so that we can let you guys know when an earthquake is coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe and Anna, for your pioneering work in this space. Really, really important. And last up is Mark from Birdie and Meg from Department of Public Health.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Meg Walsh-Shuey, and I'm an epidemiologist from the Department of Public Health in the Environmental Health section. And we had the opportunity to partner with Birdie, who has developed a smart air quality monitor. And I would like to thank the mayor, Jay Nath and his team, and our director, Barbara Garcia, for allowing us to have this opportunity to learn more about how to protect people from environmental hazards. So in the Department of Public Health, protecting people from the health hazards of air pollution is a really big priority for us, and it's part of our department's strategic plan. In environmental health specifically, we take two approaches. One is to use data-informed policy development, and the other is to do community engagement. Americans spend on average about 90% of their time indoors, and this is especially true for groups that are especially sensitive to air pollution, the very young and the very old. But most people tend to think that air pollution is an outdoor issue, when in fact the air inside your home can be much dirtier than the air outside. So to deal with this, the Department of Public Health has tried to take action to protect people from pollutants from cars and other outdoor sources that can seep into our homes by working with other city agencies to pass and implement Article 38 of the Health Code, which basically specifies that new housing that is being developed in this blue air pollution hazard zone has to have enhanced ventilation that will remove 80% of the outdoor particulate matter. And this is really amazing, but at the same time, our indoor air quality is the product of both the outdoor pollutants that come into our homes as well as our indoor activities. So when Jay Nath offered us the opportunity to partner with Birdie, we were really excited because we saw the opportunity for a complementary tool that would enable us to engage citizens in protecting their own air quality. We believe that Birdie has the potential to teach people how to use this enhanced ventilation that's being installed in their units in an optimal way, as well as for people who live in units that don't have this ventilation to engage in healthy home behaviors like running kitchen and bathroom fans, opening windows at appropriate times, not smoking indoors, and maybe even getting an air filter, all through the power of data. So what we're doing with Birdie is we're collaborating on a research project where we are going to examine whether having access to real-time indoor air quality information impacts people's behaviors to improve their air quality in their home, and also if it engages them in civic activities to prevent outdoor air pollution. To do that, we will be installing a limited number of Birdie devices in the homes of people who live in impacted areas, and we'll ask them to complete a survey on a daily basis over a 1-month period to determine if interaction with this technology changes their behaviors. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mark Belinsky, CEO of Birdie, who will tell us more about how Birdie works to improve people's health.
Thanks, Meg. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Belinsky. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Birdie. Our mission is to save lives and make people healthier. Take a deep breath. The air that we're breathing is life, and yet we don't know very much about it. We have a sense that outdoors, the air is maybe not so great, but indoors, the air is often 2 to 8 times worse than outdoors. The question is, what can we do about it? We've reimagined the smoke alarm. Right now, it's in your home, it's ugly, it's annoying, and it doesn't help you every day. So why not fill it with sensors to tell you about the health of you and your family? to tell you about the humidity, to tell you about temperature, the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, as well as cat dander, dust, and if there's an emergency, smoke. It's about real lives. This is humidity for your grandmother's joints. This is asthma conditions for your children. This is allergies for your spouse. These are real issues that we're looking to tackle. Now, the EPA is already doing a great job of telling us about air quality all over the United States. Unfortunately, for San Francisco, we have one sensor in Potrero Hill that costs tens of thousands of dollars. And the way that they communicate that information is not necessarily totally understandable. Today, the air quality is at about a 52. Does anybody really know what that means? And does anybody know enough to actually take matters into their own hands to make a difference? Not yet. And we're looking to change that. So Birdie's device is paired with our smartphone application. And this tells you anywhere in the world what the air quality is like, and most importantly, what you can do about it. By looking at the air quality outdoors as well as indoors, we can tell you what you should do. Should you open a window because the air's pretty good outside? Or should you close a window because the air's really bad? Should you turn on a fan? Should you buy a plant that can purify the air while you're sleeping? So why am I here in a t-shirt in a government building? We saw EIR as a unique opportunity to work with experts who know a lot about air quality so that we can build a product that really helps change people's lives. It's all about user-centered design. Working with government has meant that our baseline of people has opened up. We're working with people in public housing, as well as the people that we're selling products to, as well as government buildings themselves. And that's what's really exciting. It's learning from them in this massive opportunity. Smoke alarms already exist everywhere. Now, how can we augment that information by adding in the health information and building a product that is suitable for all these different constituents? It's a new understanding of the city. The Department of Public Health does a great job of caring for San Francisco's health as far as they know. The problem is, how are citizens engaging in changing their own lives? And that's where we're adding the element for them to participate and for us to really work on driving the behavior change that is necessary to improve the health of San Franciscans. And it's been really fantastic. Our team is filled with technologists. We're not scientists. Thankfully, DPH has scientists. And so we can really work on understanding the air quality data and making it as powerful as possible to help augment the fantastic work that the DPH team is already doing. And what's really thrilling is this is the first kind of project like this in the country, but air pollution affects us all. And so the question is, how can we learn from the innovation that's happening here in San Francisco and start taking this to other cities around the country so that we can start improving the air quality for everyone? And I think that's the real opportunity that EIR presents here for us all today. And so I want to thank Mayor Ed Lee. I want to thank Jay Nath and his team. And I want to thank all of you for being here and listening. Happy to speak more. Please come to me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Birdie, and thank you, Department of Public Health. And please give a final round of applause for all 6 teams. So at this time, we're going to take a break for those of you that need to leave, and then we're going to regroup very quickly and have the VIP panel talk about civic innovation and entrepreneurship. Thank you. Let's get started. We're waiting for one more panelist. She's running to the restroom. So we're going to have a conversation about civic entrepreneurship and civic innovation. Just to give a little background on our office, Office of Civic Innovation, we were established 2 years ago, and our real role is to be a bridge with the broader community, bringing in new insights, new ideas into government through programs like this and other programs that we've established. So for us, thinking about innovation in an open sort of way has been really meaningful and powerful. And it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, the challenges that we face in society and government are not problems that we can solve alone. So we need the talent of our startup community, of entrepreneurs, of everyday residents to help us think through those challenges and problems. So just wanted to tee it up, and just sort of for brevity, I'll have each of you sort of introduce yourselves before you answer the question, but then just dive into the response. So Kieran, I want to start off with you. What are the most innovative examples you've seen of cities making it easier for companies to collaborate with government?
Well, I think we just saw a great example of one. Sorry. I think we just saw a really, really great example of one. I think the EIR program in San Francisco has really opened my eyes to ways that we can get early stage companies to work more closely with public agencies to not only solve for the pain points of citizens, but those of public servants as well. I think what they're doing in Philadelphia with Fast Forward, Kansas City has an innovation partnerships program that just launched about a year ago. I think all of these initiatives are fairly new. But what struck me about that program is inviting companies early on to test proof of concept ideas alongside government agencies so they can kind of iterate and test out their products before they get ready to go to market. So those are some of the examples. I'd also like to give just shout outs to Portland, Colorado Springs. I even saw an example from Barcelona recently where governments are thinking more creatively about the way they procure products. So it's not just about, here's our RFP, now tell us what you can provide, but actually setting up goals. Not necessarily outlining what those specified outcomes should be, but what the goal of the products are. And I saw a lot of that today, actually, with these products.
And Kieran, are there any activities you're doing in Oakland to sort of bring in innovation into your city?
There's a few. We have a very strong partnership with Code for America. Sid Harrell's back there. She's working on the Digital Front Door project right now, where we are rethinking the way our website looks to citizens. There's this, fact of, I think we get about 100,000 unique visitors each month to the City of Oakland website. That's definitely not the amount of people that come through City Hall's doors. So there's this great effort underway to try to reimagine the way we provide digital services to our citizens. I think a lot of also what we're seeing in our research is that they're accessing it through mobile, not just kind of a desktop. So we need to rethink the way we're designing services from that aspect as well. And there's also some innovative partnerships. In addition to Code for America, the City of Oakland recently partnered with kiva.org to crowdfund local economic development. So that's another way I think we can help businesses in our own community with access to capital.
So the next question for Kim. You work a lot with the startup community in your role as a writer for TechCrunch. And what's their perception of government? My sense before this program is that they see government as an obstacle often, that they don't want to deal with government. And so I guess, is that perception true, A? And B, what can we do to improve that?
So I think when we talked about this on the phone yesterday, I was, thinking about, this generation of entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, that has kind of come into San Francisco over the last 5 to 10 years. And I think if you start from a place where a lot of these people kind of grew up in the 80s and the 90s when, the predominant political messaging that they were surrounded by was that government is bad and that we should starve the beast and we should pay lower taxes and blah, 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 blah. And if they've chosen to go obviously into entrepreneurship or tech entrepreneurship, that kind of reinforces that choice that they believe a certain approach to solving problems might be better suited, I guess, in market-oriented approaches as opposed to government. So I think that kind of lasts and lingers on to this day. And also this particular generation is also very young, and maybe they haven't lived in a single community for an extended amount of time. So I think they're only beginning to form an idea of how they should be politically responsible or civically engaged, at least in the city of San Francisco. I think a lot of the people that I talk to, if they work in an area that's not highly regulated, they don't deal with government agencies. So they're just not aware of how to kind of work with, local officials but if you talk to some of the companies that do work in highly regulated areas, they do have after dealing, like working with this, like a city government or a state agency for months or years, they start to see like, oh, okay, well, there's a point of view that they're taking all these considerations into account that I haven't even thought about, and all these other communities that I may not particularly I might have not just considered.
And what do you think they don't see government as a potential customer? If you think about markets, this is the largest market opportunity.
Yeah.
We spend $150 billion annually on IT alone. And it's just a massive, massive market that is yet to be disrupted by the tech industry. So is that a lack of understanding, or do you think that there's barriers to entry, whether it's RFPs or an understanding of government, how it operates?
I think it's barriers to entry, and also just like the age of the community here. Like if you think about the different choices you have as an entrepreneur, you're going to do purely software-based solutions, or you're going to do enterprise, you're going to do also what platform you're going to attack. And so if you think about like when people are building mobile apps or websites or whatever, like the distribution barriers are significantly lower than they were a decade ago. Like it's improbable, but you could build an app that in a year or two reaches like hundreds of millions of people, versus if you are building products for like the K-12 educational system or for city governments, you've got to go through this like very extensive like sales and BD process that you need a really experienced sales team for. And I think that favors older entrepreneurs over younger ones who just have more patience, maybe.
So I think a lot about impact that the ecosystem can make, and the technology space, and I see there's a lot of promise. And I wanted to hear from you, Alyssa, if you could introduce yourself as well, and your background, your role at Namidyar. What do you think that impact looks like when we have more entrepreneurs and more people in the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I'm Alyssa Black with Omidyar Network, and prior to joining Omidyar, I actually worked with Jay early on in the Department of Technology. So I have a place in my heart for public service and working with government. And so I guess when you think about impact, or at least when we think about impact at Omidyar, and part of the reason why we're all here is that civic tech really can increase the delivery of government services through efficiencies and effectiveness, and increase participation in government. And so that's what we see as kind of the ultimate goal of civic technology. When we think about investing in civic tech companies, first and foremost, I think funders have different criteria for why they invest. And so we're very interested in the social impact first. And so when civic tech entrepreneurs think about their companies, it's really important, I think, to think about the impact piece of it and the value as opposed to the outputs. And then of course, Omidyar does think about financial returns. Kind of my dream for this space is that we see more viable and sustainable civic tech companies out there. And so for us, that's really what we're looking for, because if we have viable businesses, there's greater social impact. And that doesn't necessarily just mean for-profit. It could mean nonprofit. But kind of thinking through what those different business models are for civic technology companies is important, and something that we think a lot of time on about, and hope that there's opportunities to talk more about that.
And Alyssa, why do you think there aren't more entrepreneurs thinking about this? Is it a lack of VC capital? Is it they don't understand what the problems are, and we as government should be giving more insight into our challenges? What are those obstacles?
I think it's, both of what you mentioned. I think transparency into the problems is really difficult. You had people embedded in the offices for 16 weeks, very high touch, problem solving, really understanding the problem. That's really not accessible for most entrepreneurs. So it's the transparency around the problems. I do think procurement is a huge barrier for entry for a lot of people. There's a lot of really great ideas, but thinking about government as a customer is challenging. And so it's exactly what Kim said. You have to have sales teams and biz dev teams that most small startups don't have. And they need to be regional because you're competing with large vendors.
Thank you. One of the two things that we heard from entrepreneurs, why are they interested in this? When we saw nearly 200 startups apply for this program, what intrigued them? And there were two things. One is that they actually did want to make a real impact in their society. They genuinely wanted to do that. Government is a tough place to operate, so that they knew that going in. Second, they see it as a big commercial market. A question for you, Brian, if you can introduce yourself as well, is, how do you think startups can look at communities and underserved communities as an economic opportunity, but also in a way to create social impact?
Sure. I'm Brian Bash, and I'm CEO of the Lighthouse for the Blind. We've been around for 112 years, and interestingly enough, what we're seeing now is the most creative and sort of inventive time in our history. We founded Lighthouse Labs, and we get solicitations for businesses, app writers, governments, all kinds of people who are saying to us, how can we evaluate technology that works for you guys? And as we heard from Hannes, sometimes it's a breath of fresh air. Don't design the app before you talk to the constituency it serves. And what we found is that this interchange between the blind and visually impaired community, just in the Bay Area, there are 40,000 of us. We fly airports and we do all kinds of things, but this interchange is more than just checking off some box in ADA accessibility. It's about the opportunity to be audacious, the opportunity to have full implementation of a product. The back shelves of libraries are now littered with Barnes & Noble Nooks, because libraries bought them. They realize that it's a device used by government. Blind, visually impaired people can't use it. So competitors now have those shelves and those purchases, and it's because certain groups thought to talk to the blind and visually impaired community and talk to the community that they purport to serve. Yes, we're a big market, but we're also a market where lives can be transformed for the good. And I just wanted to take a minute to say, last night I flew back to San Francisco from Seattle. I got off the plane in Terminal 2, took out my iPhone, walked down the concourse, and for the first time, I saw, oh, I had no idea there were so many hydration stations. Yeah. There were rooms and rooms devoted to baby changing stations. I had no idea.
Very much appreciate.
ATMs, I wish I had known about them, and on. And suddenly, where the baggage arrives, where the information desks are, and soon connections to ground transportation, all that. This is not incremental. This is government operating in a nimble fashion that audaciously changes our lives. That's what we want to do.
Thank you, Brian. Yep. And thank you again to the Hannes and SFO team for making that a reality. Kieran, when you think about sort of the interactions that we've seen here in the EIR program, it was truly a voluntary interaction, right? We asked startups, we didn't offer them any money, there wasn't any commitments in terms of procurement. There was really nothing but, hey, you get to work with government officials to really understand their problems and to potentially create a new product or service to help meet that need. Are there other sort of policies or tools or incentives that startups and governments can think about, either from a legal perspective or otherwise, that can help form more collaboration? Because as we talked about before with Alyssa, insight into these challenges, and as a government official, we have 1,000 problems that have yet to be solved. What more can we do to sort of bring those two parties together?
Absolutely. I just wanted to comment quickly on procurement, because I do think that it's become this very supercharged word, that's associated with government waste and inefficiencies. And I think we need to reframe the conversation a bit. It's not about, you procure pencils and notepads and things, but you build software applications. You build these products to meet citizen needs. And I think that our policies and our contracts and our RFPs need to start reflecting that intent. I think it could be something as simple from an RFP perspective, getting all the stakeholders in the room early on to give input on what are our goals here? What are we trying to achieve? Typically sometimes that function is outsourced actually to a technical consultant who isn't getting those insights and who isn't embedded in the agencies whose problems they're trying to solve. I think we could also, from a contract perspective, and this is something I'm going to throw out there, something I've been thinking about a little bit lately, but a ways we could align incentives between government and entrepreneurs. So, we're seen as co-developers of these applications, such that, we take some interest in these IP rights. There's a lot of stuff going on with intellectual property that government at this moment doesn't fully understand. And that could be, we don't have the resources or the technical ability, but we do take a lot of the risk like an entrepreneur, right? We're inviting folks in. It might be no cost, but I think there is a cost that we need to think through from a government perspective. It could be time, resources, that kind of thing. So we have this co-venture. We have the IP rights. We say we'll assign it to this company. You go and do what entrepreneurs do really well: build, sell, refine, build, sell more, and we'll take a cut of those profits. We'll take that money, and we'll reinvest it in another project. I think that's something that governments can do. We haven't looked at it before, but it's something I'm very much interested in working on and seeing if we can get some traction on these specific projects.
Somewhat similar to the tech transfer process in academia.
Exactly, exactly.
Alyssa, from your standpoint, when you're thinking about investing in this space, and what can these companies and what can government potentially do to make it more attractive? What are those things that would make a mid-year say, hey, we're gonna invest a lot more of our portfolio into civic startups? What can we change?
So I mentioned it earlier, and it's worth mentioning again. I think it is looking at the business models and making sure that they're viable and sustainable. There are a lot of civic tech companies that haven't figured that out yet, and I don't know if that's because there's a push towards hackathons where a lot of really great ideas kind of surface, and then teams come together. I don't know if it's that there's a lot of really great socially minded people out there that come from nonprofit backgrounds that are mission driven and have a difficult time thinking about for-profit or other types of business models aligning with mission. I'm not sure what kind of the cause is, but I know for us, we're really interested in looking at those civic tech companies that have viable and sustainable business models. I think that's probably the key thing that we look at. We look at impact first, and then we look at, okay, if this has the impact that we want to see in the world, are they a sustainable business? And that's kind of where a lot of companies drop off.
Are you seeing more investors seeing the public sector as an interesting investment opportunity, or is it still there's too many challenges that they're not going to get the return?
So since I've only been at EIR for about a month and a half, I don't know the answer to that question. Kim might actually
do you
know,
have
yeah.
any insight into sort of the investment community? And we've seen a lot of investments in ed tech, right? And that's obviously a very challenging, very similar space. Why haven't we seen that sort of level of investment in clean tech as well? Why haven't we seen that investment in civic tech? What do you think the reasons are for that?
I think it's probably depends on what you define as civic tech, because there are a lot of startups that do engage with transit and education.
Which is mostly at the consumer.
At the consumer level.
Right, if you think about Uber, right, and others. But if you look at the examples today at those EIR companies, they were really sort of behind the scenes. They were sort of nuts and bolts companies.
I think it just probably has to do with unfamiliarity with how you would distribute and scale a company like that, and then the uncertainties involved in the sales and BD process.
Right. Would you see similar challenges, though, in the ed tech space? There's...
Yeah, I don't cover education super closely, so I'm not following that in detail. But, from investors and friends who've founded companies in that space over a long time, they do have there's just a lot of uncertainty with how you deploy products in individual school districts, from school district to school district, or in how you run pilots that get scaled up into like a district-wide implementation. And there's just a lot of uncertainty with that, and then the timeline for that kind of investment is just probably significantly longer than what you would need to kind of find product market fit in a basic consumer application.
Final question, I'll go back to you, Kieran. When you think about civic innovation, it's sort of a new term to describe this space, and you've seen a lot of focus on open data and information, and you're now seeing a lot more interest in civic tech and startups in Philadelphia and here in San Francisco. Where do you see it going after that? Where do you think is the next step?
Look into the crystal ball. Well, hopefully, what I see with the EIR program, and maybe this is kind of a reflection of what's to come, is this kind of awakening inside City Hall as well as outside City Hall, to not only what the problems are, but how we can use technology to solve some of these issues. And so hopefully what I would envision and hope is that you're going to see more permeability between private and public sector, such that you have entrepreneurs moving in and out of government. And hopefully through this process, I think in Oakland there's something like, in the next 10 years, 50% of our workforce will be eligible for retirement. So you're seeing this huge wave of new energy and new spirit also coming into City Hall. And to be able to kind of have this co-creation process with the citizens' needs front and center, I think you're going to see a reimagining of governance, peeling back the layers of bureaucracy. I'm looking at the inefficiencies that have built up over the last 50, 60, 100+ years, I think is something I'm hoping will come of will kind of come of age with this new workforce. That's my hope. I think you will see the civic tech space mature. I think as investors start to understand the problems that are being solved, at the scale of what they're being solved, I think that understanding is still a bit nascent. But I looked at every one of the companies here today is a company that we could have in Oakland, in any city actually in this country. So I think the potential to scale is there. It's kind of messaging why investors should care. And I look at the millennial generation as, they want to work on stuff that matters. I don't know if I'm part of the millennial generation, actually. I might have just missed the cutoff. But in my work, being a public servant, I want to work because I want my job to have meaning. And I see every company here today as not just working for profit, but also wanting to work for meaning. And I think when you have those incentives aligned, I think great things will come of it.
Thank you, Karen. Please give a round of applause for the panel. So I encourage all of you to stay. Please ask us questions in the Office of Civic Innovation, the startups, the panelists, and let's talk about what the next generation of civic startups look like and how do we catalyze the civic innovation space more broadly. Thank you so much for attending the Mayor's inaugural Demo Day.